You have to look at all of the, is anybody any chaos in your life? Anybody at all? Any chaos? You've had some. Well, I've walked with y'all through some of your chaos, but I also know, hear me, you have to look over the face of your deep, and you have to find the vibration to where you say, let there be light, or let this become light. And what looks like the abyss, you look into it, as he said in that lyric, you look into the shadow and you see the light. That's why you shouldn't be discouraged about any perceived negative thing in your life. I don't care what the doctor tells you. I don't care what you hear. I don't care what bad report you hear. You have to look at the submerged chaos and say, there is a vibrating word. It is becoming light. And it will not, hear this, the answer will not be off in heaven somewhere. The answer is in the chaos. It's why Jesus said, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. The very fact that he says seek it means it's not clearly obvious. Luke 17 says the kingdom does not come by observation. So that everything that happens, I've taught this for years. I remember one time I picked up a flower arrangement and I said, you got to tear this thing apart and say the kingdom's in here somewhere. If I don't care how much I mess this thing up, I'm not going to let this thing go till I find the kingdom in it. If it doesn't look like a blessing yet, it is becoming light. It is becoming a blessing. No matter what you throw at me, no matter how much chaos is around me, eventually it will all become a blessing. I will keep looking, because here's the thing. There's a lot of water on the earth. Mostly water. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but let me show you these next verses. This is John chapter 1, verses 1 through 5 and verse 14. This is in the Caboris manuscript. What I just read to you was Hebrew. This is out of Aramaic. This is the language Jesus actually spoke. You're familiar with this. And the words, I didn't take them out just to show you. The words in parentheses are the original Aramaic words. I will not try to pronounce them. I'll just read the English words. At the very beginning, there was willed action. This is where King James says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. At the very beginning, there was willed action. And willed action then was by God, or Allah. And God was that willed action. The beginning was by God. All was by him. And without him, not a single thing came into being out of that which was. Did any of you ever grow up on a farm? Or if you were around it? Well, everything had its season, right? Like a person that understands agriculture could say, oh, those beans need another month. The watermelon we just planted, it won't be here in the summer. You can look at all, if you plant multiple things, you can look at all these different fields and see that they are all in different stages of maturity. Any farmer would know you don't just run out and harvest everything at once. That's why there are seasons. That's why Psalm 1:3 says, who brings forth his fruit in his season. When I say I'm blessed, I don't mean I'm a little bit blessed. I'm completely blessed. But that doesn't mean that all of the blessings have matured yet. Do you understand? But harvest time will come for each of them. So you can't judge my life to say, well, you don't look blessed in this, because eventually I will be. Eventually, the light will come out of the darkness, and even the things right now that look like chaos. And I'm going to tell you something. Chaos can wear you out. This is why you have to stay strong. This is why you need a community of people. Ecclesiastes is two are better than one, for if one falls, the other will lift up his fellow. Sometimes you need somebody to say, hang in there, stay strong. You'll notice a lot of y'all text me with issues. But if you'll notice, I nearly end every text with stay strong. I think that's so important, just to say you're going to stay, you're just going to have to hang in there and keep looking into the chaos until you start seeing light come up out of it. And I can't make you see that, because you know what? I got my own 7 C's. Do you know what I mean? I got my own stuff. Like I'll help you with yours, if I'm a spiritual father to you, but I'm also in my own stage of maturity. I mean, very recently, and maybe about 3 of you in here even know what I'm talking about. But very recently, I went through something that I was sure was already a blessing and had given testimony to it. And I think it'd be safe to say chaos broke out in the situation. I mean, it was chaotic and blindsided me. I was like, what? I thought that was over and done with. How in the world did that resurface? And sometimes it can be daunting when you think there's been, I don't use the word victory a lot, but when you think there's been victory in an area and then something happens and you're like, oh my God, what? Like the doctor tells you, yeah, we got all the cancer, but then they call back and say, oh, we found another spot. It's that extra one that can knock you out because you're like, oh man, I already put all my energy into getting responding to that good report. And now you're telling me that's where, if there is a Satan, that's where that comes in, where you're just like, I'm too tired to fight that. I mean, I already poured all my energy into this one. And now you tell me this, it's that, what's the word for it? It's that follow-up thing that really knocks people out. And that's when you have to look at it and say, oh, chaos. You will not stay chaos. The chaos will become cosmos. The firmament will come up out of the water. He will separate. If you go read Genesis chapter 1, it says long before, 2 or 3 days before there were celestial beings like the sun and the moon, he says there was light and there was darkness, and God separated the light from the darkness, and he called the light day and he called the darkness night. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? The God in you has got to separate the darkness from the light until you find out that it is all light. Because hear this, God didn't say let there be light and darkness. He said let there be light. But guess what? Darkness came. In the beginning God created, and the earth fell into a vacancy. It was without form and void. So did God say, oh well, so much for that? No, he says, well, then there's a vibrating word then that is going to cause light. This is why you need to listen. You need to have your antenna up all the time trying to get your good word, and you need to weed out the people who are going to give you the bad word because they're working against you. Do you know what I mean? There's some people you can't, they're family members or whatever, you can't get, but some people you have to say, I'm going to have to budget the time I have with you because we got some negative thing going on, and I can't go there. I'm going to have to keep it up here. And I love you. It's not that I'm not, if you need me, I'll be here for you, but I can't. Some of the stuff you say just really infects my spirit, and I got too much chaos going on. I got to keep it strong. I got to keep finding that vibrating word that is going to pull the cosmos up out of the chaos. All right. From him there came into being. Don't you notice out of the Hebrew and the Aramaic, there's no instantaneous stuff. Everything is, lay hands on the sick and they shall recover. The lepers were healed as they went on their way. This is where you got to look at it. It really is all. You've seen the success story posters. Success is not a destination, it's a journey. Everything's a journey. So we'll all end up blessing. He's going to light the way to heaven, but sometimes it's going to go through things that if you don't find the vibrating word, they're going to stay chaotic, and you'll spend your entire life here just being bitter about the stuff that you can't understand. Or you can take inventory of all your crops and say, I will harvest every one of these. This might be 30-fold, this might be 60-fold, this might be 100-fold, but I promise you I will get something out of each of these things. Nothing will come into my life without blessing me. Even if it comes in as a curse, I will transform the curse into a blessing. All right. From him came into being perfect life, and this perfect life became light unto American Christians who prayed the sinner's prayer at a Billy Graham crusade? No? And he became light unto all men. Behold, he comes with clouds, and every eye will see him. I don't think that's a 33-year-old Jewish man floating in the sky. I believe that's a cosmic paradigm shift where all the peoples of the world go, oh, okay, there's the light. And don't you see it happening all the time? Don't you go to movies and you're like, wow, whoever wrote this script is definitely tuned into some spiritual stuff. I mean, and I'm not just talking about the Matrix. I mean, it's like I see it everywhere. Everything I look at, I'm like, wow, they really tapped into a truth there. And this light out of darkness caused light, and darkness did not overcome, and willed action became flesh. Anybody ever heard of that? That's Jesus. Willed action. That's not just Jesus. That's you. That's you. That's you. We've all had a nativity. It might not be in Bethlehem, but Paul said, I travail in pain until birth, until Christ is formed in you again. When it pleased the Lord who separated me from my mother's womb to reveal his son in me. I did not go to Jerusalem. I went to Arabia. What? That's crazy talk. Sometimes you got to get away from Jerusalem to find your light. You heard me? That was for somebody. And this light out of darkness caused light, and darkness did not overcome, and willed action became flesh and dwelt among us. And we saw glory as if begotten from the Father, completely filled with heavenliness and righteousness. All right, I gotta keep it moving. Let me show you this third one. This is John chapter 12. And let me just say, at the risk of sounding very charismatic, I'm feeling the Spirit of God very strong in this place right now. Is it just me? Are you aware? I mean, it's always good when we come, but I mean, today, John chapter 12, this is also out of the Comorahs. Jesus said to them, a little while light is with you. Walk while you yet have the light. He's talking about in his flesh form, he's about to leave. Walk while you have the light, so that darkness will not overtake you. He who walks in darkness does not know where he goes. Go on. While you yet have the light with you, have faith in the light, that you will be children of enlightenment. I've heard Christians say, well, Christians shouldn't use the word enlightenment. That's an Eastern word. Well, where do you think do you think Jesus was born in Ohio? Of course the Bible sounds Eastern, because guess what? It's Easter. It's just amazing to me. Well, he was when you were born in Cabbagetown, but originally he was born. All right. Thus spoke Jesus and went off and hid from them. What? Has anybody ever said, God, where are you? Everybody, maybe y'all aren't corny enough for this, but you know, how many people had the footprints poster? You know, where were you, God, when there was one set of footprints? That was when I carried you. Because we all have that situation. We're like, God, do you not even see what's going on with me? Like, what the heck? And we've all had those kind of prayers. I was thinking about this, and I've evolved a lot since even last year. But a year ago yesterday, Ray had his heart attack. You know the story. And Joanne called in her very calm voice, Bishop, hi, still in. Ray's having a heart attack. He's being flighted right now to Emory. And we'd like to know if you could have a word with him. I'm like, okay. And I prayed with, and I said, you're going to be okay. But I remember when I hung up the phone, and I remember the frame of mind I was in at the time. I don't know that I've ever interceded for anybody like this before. And I'm not telling you to do it, but I was cussing and praying. Because when I hung up the phone, I was like, God, seriously? Ray Muscarello? Are you freaking kidding me? And that's how I was praying. I was like, of all the people that the world would be so much better without, that have been hanging on, we thought they should have died 20 years ago, can't seem to get rid of them. Really? Nice, loving, sweet, giving Ray Muscarella. Really? You know, I was just, I mean, I actually had to go back and apologize later. Like, you know, I was feeling a little emotional, but it was not a pretty prayer. I mean, it was like, God, are you effing kidding me? What? I mean, I was just, and I know that sounds crazy, but that's the emotion that was coming out of me. Well, he's here a year later, I guess, you know, and he went to the doctor. I'm not saying it was my prayer. I mean, they did what they had to do, but there is, you know, there is that time when we're like, what in the world is going on here? This isn't right. And that's when you have to, this separates the men from the boys, the women from the girls. That's either listen, the chaos will either intimidate you or it will dare you to dive in and find the light in it. And many people are intimidated by the chaos. They're like, I can't. And they spend the rest of their life talking about the chaos. Then there are others of us who say, no, there's light in here somewhere. So it says, he went off and hid from them. I came as enlightenment unto all men, so that whoever completely believes will not stay in darkness. If anyone hears my word and does not obey them, I will not condemn him, for I came not to condemn him, but to save him. Do you understand that? He's saying this isn't about me trying to pass judgment on people. He said, now this world, you know, is cast down, judgment's already been passed. He has judged the world righteous. We don't always know that, so we don't walk in reality, but that's his paradigm of it. But what's interesting is he talks about light and then he hides from them. You know, there's that first moment when your toddlers are, you know, learning to walk, and, you know, you're like, oh, Lord, you're going to fall and bang your head into that coffee table. But at a certain point, you have to say, well, you got to learn how to walk. I mean, because at 17, you can't be, you know, and we all feel that way. The night we were talking, and Ken's kids were taking the baby. So it was real cold that day, and they were taking the baby to meet their grandma or something. And he said, you know, on days like that, I wish they'd just stay home. And I said, welcome to being a grandparent. And then now you've just added more people to be concerned about. You know what I mean? When you look at your kids carry off that baby, you're like, oh, God, y'all don't know what to do with the baby. But you didn't know what to do with the baby either, and you figured it out. But there's that constant letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go, merely having to hide from them. To say, you know, I can only take you by the hand so much. I'm going to have to hide from you so that you can find the light. You can't find it in me. You have to find your own path. Bring up a child in the way he should go. If you, being a good parent, know how to do that, don't you know God does that? Have you ever felt like, well, I don't feel like God's taking me by the hand? Exactly. Of course he's not. You decree a thing, it'll be established unto you. And when you're 35 years old going, I wish my daddy would, well, you know what? Your daddy kicked you in the fanny and said, figure it out. Look into the, I gave you, you have my DNA. Look into the chaos and bring the cosmos up out of it. And not everybody wants to hear that, right? I was watching, I don't know if y'all ever seen Step Brothers with Will Ferrell and whatever his name is. It was on late last night, and I ended up watching it. It's so funny. Parts of it are obscene, but it is so funny because it's a man that has an adult son who will not grow up, will not leave home, who marries a woman with an adult son. And they're, oh my God, it's like they're the most horrible, like they sleepwalk, they do all kind of, there's no way to explain how funny this movie is. because they just will not grow up. They cannot get these boys out of the house. They do everything to get them to individualize, and they just want. And at a certain point, it's not cute to be dependent on a parent. It's just not. At a certain point, you're like, this is just embarrassing. We were talking to Christina last night about nursing, because at first she wasn't going to, but now she is. And I said, I'm so glad you are, because it really, if you can do it, it really does help the baby and helps you lose weight or whatever. And, my theory always was, and even when I was married to Debbie, she was a big believer in this. It's like, how long do you nurse them? Until they get teeth. Like, nature will naturally tell you when they're biting your nipple off. It's like, you know what? They could chew food. If you can bite down that hard, you should be able to chew. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's like, oh, well, they got teeth now. They should be able to, they can eat some solid food. And not everybody. Why do you think, remember in one of Peter's epistles, he talks about desire the sensory milk of the world, but you should want the meat. And there's that whole concept of weaning yourself off the milk, because you should be carnivorous by now. You're meat eaters. And this is a bold statement. I think you're putting that clock up there. I gotta be aware. This is a bold statement, but I would venture to say the majority of Christian churches are dairies. I mean, they are just they're seriously. They got a preacher up there that pulls one out and say, and and it's embarrassing, because you got these grown-ups, talking about the devil stole my finances. I'm like, really? Y'all still think that? Really? You come to me for it, I'd be like, you better order a steak. We got New York strip, we got prime rib, you can get a filet mignon, but you ain't getting nothing up here, because I'm going to teach you how to chew with your own teeth. This was interesting. I was looking at this metaphysical Bible dictionary. I thought this was interesting. It says the product of the first day's creation is recorded in Genesis as being heaven, earth, and light. Heaven represents spiritual ideas. Earth represents material thoughts. Light represents understanding. The firmament in the midst of the waters is an idea of confidence or faith in the invisible. Waters represent changing conditions. I thought that was very interesting, which are a necessary part of creation. But when faith establishes itself and separates what is above, spiritual, from what is below, material, the result is harmony or heaven. The dry land is the thought form or substance concept in which the seed, propagation, or increase is planted. Lights in the firmament, one to rule the day and the other to rule the day, are ideas of intelligent action. What did we just read? In the beginning was willed action. Light in the conscious and subconscious realms of mind. The abundant bringing forth of the waters is the fecundity. Does anyone know what something is fecund? It means like when a dog has a litter of puppies, it means you can give birth, and you can give birth to a lot of things. It's similar word to prolific. The waters is the fecundity of the mind, which great fishes symbolize. I love the way this for great result and it's a thinking capacity to be great. Because if you go back and read Genesis 1, it says, in the deep, and the great monsters of the deep, the great fishes, or whatever. All of it is symbolic of the way we're supposed to be God on the earth. Woo! I love it. All right. This is Habakkuk chapter 2:14 in the NIV. For the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. Some people say, well, that means revival. I think it means chaos. And you look into the chaos, you find the vibrating word, you speak the word, the cosmos comes up out of the chaos. Everything will eventually be a blessing. I have two quotes, and you will not hear usually these people quoted in church, but I want to quote them. Carl Jung is the founder of analytical psychology. This is an interesting quote. It says, "In all chaos, there is a cosmos. In all disorder, a secret order." This is what I love about these guys that don't consider themselves Christian or even necessarily spiritual. It's amazing how much they tap into things that are true. The knowledge of the Lord fills all the earth. And if Jung doesn't get you, here's Nietzsche. Friedrich Nietzsche says, who was an atheist, but he says, you must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star. So I think, well, a lot of these people that call themselves atheists, they weren't really atheists. They were people who had issues with organized religion and didn't like some of the things that people did in the name of God. Like I went to, a while back, I saw that Bill Maher movie, Religulous. Bill Maher's a, very strong atheist. I agreed with probably 80% of what he said in that movie. I wanted to sit down with him and say, Bill, I don't think you're an atheist. I think kind of prophetic and sort of say that the emperor doesn't have clothes on and kind of speaking to some things that I say all the time. And when somebody is adamantly atheist, to me, they come across as fundamentalist, as a Bible thumper. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, no, if you use the word agnostic, I'm fine with that, because agnostic means, well, I don't know. I'm still learning. I don't even know if it's possible to know. I'm totally good with that. I think agnostic is probably a positive term. There's some things I'm agnostic about, and it doesn't mean I'm not a believer. It means I'm like, well, I used to know everything. You should have met me when I was 14. I knew it all back then. It was beautiful, but I don't know where I lost that information. Now at 56, I'm like, well, I don't know, because there are things I believed a year ago that I'm not sure I believe now. And some people would see that as, oh, well, you're walking further and further into darkness. No, can further and further into light. Let's all stand. I know, I want to be through by 12:30. Let's do it 12:31. Look at God. All right. You got to play this at least a couple more times, because y'all got the money. We need the money. Give the money. Now, we're good. But
contributing at Metron is quickly. Simply text the amount you'd like to contribute to 404-620-5044. Once you've sent the amount you'd like to give, you will receive a link. The link will take you to a one-time registration form. This will make the contribution process even easier in the future. Once you've filled out the information form, you will then see a successful registration and donation page. You can now give anytime by simply texting an amount to this number. To set up recurring contributions, log on to visionthenow.com and click Simple Give. We have more information on how to do this available in the back of the room. Thank you for your investment in Metron.
If you have a check, just make it JSM, and Danny will be back there. If you have cash, I just want you to pay it forward. Take somebody, and there's plenty of indigent people out here that would be happy to for you to give them something. So be aware of that. Is this, you like this? I'm telling you, I love this stuff. I said I was going to give you a date for missing the King Center, but I still haven't pinned it down yet. I will tell you for sure by next Sunday. I'm thinking I might even nearly wait till April, just because I think there's a lot of outside walking on that, and I just want to make sure that everything's totally thawed out, because sometimes March is still unpredictable, and I don't want to. Because this is the kind of thing I want us to be able to walk around and take pictures and all that kind of stuff. So, and I don't want people like freezing. So, and what is up with it? They keep telling us a blizzard's coming. It doesn't. What is that? I'm like, okay, well, bring it, and then it just doesn't. Did y'all had snow where you are, right? Midtown, not a flake. I woke up one day, all the news, they were talking about the snow apocalypse, and I'm like, Am I in another dimension? Like I'm looking out my window like there's nothing out here. What are y'all talking about? Anyway, this is good information for you to walk in. This is what I want to pray today. I bless your ability to connect with the vibrating word that will enable you to look into the chaos and create cosmos out of it. Do not be afraid. One more thing, if I can quote him one more time. in one of his songs, it might have been the same song, when you walk through the valley of the shadow of death. That's exactly what I'm talking about. That the chaos is the valley of the shadow of death. But in that, shoot, if it wasn't so late, I'd have you come back and sing that one more time, because that was just a really right on song. But I'll probably have you sing it again before the month's over, because that was a good word. Remember, there is a word vibrating and moving up toward it. This is our version of live long and prosper. Which, by the way, Leonard Nimoy passed away, not Dr. Spock. People kept saying Dr. Spock died. I'm like, no, Dr. Spock died years ago. The baby guy. This was Mr. Spock. So much to do. I never could do that. Could y'all do that? I never could. Oh, really? Oh, look at all you Trekkies. Y'all are such nerds. All right. I see that you got it. Next thing you'll be quoting Monty Python sketches to me. Enough. All right. You're going to have an excellent week. You're blessed when you come in. You're blessed when you go out. The word is vibrating above you. Your very bones will vibrate with life. I speak light and life to you. You have favor with God and man. Safety while you're on the road, peace of mind. Keep your mind stayed on him. He keeps you in perfect peace. And you wake up tomorrow saying, this is the day that the Lord and I have made. I love you so much. See you next week.